Hi everyone, it's Gina from Sisters Talk Radio.
And Andrea from Sisters Talk Radio.
Now, several days ago we announced that we were getting married, that we were engaged, and we told you guys we would keep you, updated with all of the planning and, all of the good and the bad of what happens while you're planning a, girl wedding, all that good stuff. So, the first thing we want to talk about is name change.
Yes.
So we realize it's pretty early in the game to be talking about name change. We're not getting married until September 3rd, 2011. Oh, by the way, we picked a date. I don't know if we told you guys that. But we're getting married September 3rd, 2011. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a ways out there. So we think it's a little early for us to be talking about this. But
yeah, see, I don't. You know how many girls sit and write down the other person's last name? Like, you've been doing that probably since you were in, middle school.
I still scribble my name. I still scribble Gina Stevens all over pieces of paper.
No, I'm saying you take, the other person's last name.
No. Well, I didn't do that as a kid at all.
No.
As a young girl. No.
Where you had a little crush and you put the other person's last name on.
Did you do that?
I actually don't know if I did that, but I've certainly seen many children do that.
So the reason we're bringing this up is because my last name, which is Stevens, is actually my married name. Mm-hmm. It's the name I took when I married my ex-husband. And I actually had to get permission through the court to keep that name when we were getting a divorce. I had to actually get permission. It's my name. I kept it for, my own personal reasons. One of those reasons was it's my children's, my boys, their last name as well. And I wanted to have the same last name as them. So I kept it. Now, officially, Stevens is my name. Legally, it's my last name.
Right.
But I still think it's kind of weird that Andrea wants to take Stevens, because I got that name from my ex-husband, and now Andrea wants that name.
Right. Well, okay, I have a couple reasons for this. First off, let me start by saying my last name is Kleinhexel. Okay? Kleinheksel. Nobody knows how to say it. Nobody knows how to spell it. And it just drives me nuts. So, of course, if I have the chance to go from Kleinhexel to Stevens, I have no problem to make that switch. Another reason, too, is that it makes sense. Okay, so when I got in a relationship with Gina, I also got in a relationship with her and her children. Knowing that they all had that last name, it never seemed like something that I would debate upon whose name would be the name that we would pick. I figured we would either hyphenate my name.
Oh, God.
Why would you add Stevens to Kleinhexel?
And make it that much longer.
Exactly. Or, I would just take her name because it is their family name, essentially. So, to me, it just seemed like an obvious thing from the start. And can you see Gina Kleinhexel? That just doesn't sound right.
Or Gina Stevens Kleinhexel, or Andrea Kleinhexel Stevens.
No.
Actually, I do have problems with my last name. Just because it's not Kleinhexel doesn't mean I don't have problems with my last name. I could tell the person my last name is Stevens, and they'll say Stevenson, and I'm like, no, Stevens. And you know who does it? Black people do it all the time. Black people are all the people I know of that when I give them my last name as Stevens, they call me Ms. Stevenson. And I'm like, no, it's Stevens. The other problem I have with my last name is people spell it with a PH instead of a V.
Oh, of course.
So when I give my last name, I always say Stevens with a V, because I know they're going to ask. And if they don't ask, they're going to automatically spell it with a PH. Mm-hmm. So just because my last name is shorter than yours and more common doesn't mean that you're still not going to have problems with your last name. Because I can guarantee you're going to be telling people how to spell Stevens all the time. Right.
I'm sure, but when people at least say it, I'm sure they mostly pronounce it correctly. I get Kleinschmeckel, Kleinsen, like they seriously add 15 extra syllables, and I'm like, say it with me, Kleinhexel. It's pretty simple when you look at it. I've known many people with the last name Klein, so that's a pretty obvious thing. Heck, H-E-K, and then Sul, S-E-L. I don't know why this is hard, but Kleinschmeckel tends to be what I get the most. And I don't know where they got the M in the middle. So if you want to call me Kleinschmeckel, I have no problem with that. I do respond to that. But and my other favorite is when they trail off. It's like Klein, like in school, it was your name when they were going to call attendance on the first day because they pause before they'd say my name. They get to the K's and I'm like, yeah, they're going to say my name. So anyways, yeah, it's my name, and it's something I've dealt with for 32 years at this point, but man, I'm not going to be sad to get rid of it.
So one of the things we actually talked about too was actually shortening Andrea's last name to Klein, and then I would become Stevens-Klein. And then we thought, well, that doesn't really make sense either. So
because I'm not a Klein. I mean,
she's not a Klein.
Exactly. It just seemed like that's an added step.
Well, actually, that was her idea. She was the one who goes, well, I could always shorten it to Klein. And I'm like, okay. So you're going to tell your family once you get married, I shortened my name to Klein, so it would be easier for Gina to use it.
I'm sure they'd really like that.
They would really like that. So those were some of the ideas we tossed around. I think someone mentioned that we could just come up with a whole new name.
Well, I actually always thought about doing that. Now, if Gina didn't have the children involved, I think that would be something kind of fun to take my last name and her last name and kind of fuse them together somehow.
And how would that work? Stevens, Hexel, Klein,
Stevensel,
or I don't know.
Of course, she's saying Stevens first.
Of course I said.
Did you notice that? I did. So maybe Stevensel or Klein. Kleinsvensel. I'm making up new names.
So, did we decide on what we're going to do?
Yeah, I'm taking Stevens. Easily. Hands down. Andrea Stevens. It has this very nice,
nice ring to it.
This very perky, happy name.
So are we going to be Mrs. and Mrs. Stevens?
No, that's actually what I was going to talk about.
Another thing.
I have this, I just can't see myself as a Mrs. When I see myself and I hear names and stuff, maybe it'll take time. Maybe that's something other people go through. Because the thought of Mrs.
Yeah, we talked about that. I said I don't want to be Mrs. Stevens because I've already been Mrs. Stevens, and I didn't like and I'm not Mrs. Stevens anymore. And and then we were like, well, why don't we just both insist we be called Ms. Stevens? Mm-hmm. Even though we're married, we could insist that we're called Ms. Stevens, because I've been Mrs. Stevens before, and I don't want to be Mrs. Stevens again.
Right, and I've never been Mrs. Stevens.
And do you see her as a Mrs.?
No. Okay, I'm a teacher, so we're very used to having, the Miss or the Mrs. or whatever, but I think I'm so used to Miss being in front of my name. And actually, the school I'm in, we go by first name, so I'm Miss Andrea all the time. I've also done Miss Klein-Hexel.
Well, I told her, I said in the South, at least where I'm from, and at least in the black community in the South, and black communities everywhere, actually, now that I think about it, most people are called Ms. or Mr. first name.
Right.
So in the South, I would be called Miss Gina by little kids, even grown-ups. And a guy would be called Mr. Joe. Mm-hmm. Very rarely, when I was growing up, was anybody called Mr. or Mrs. last name. Very rarely. It was always Ms. or Mr. first name.
It was like a formal informality.
That's just how it was. So for us to insist that we both be called Ms. Stevens, this doesn't seem very odd to me at all.
Right. So, all right. Don't call me Mrs. It's going to feel weird.
So that's the first decision we've made, other than the wedding date.
Right. So 2 things done.
Check them off the list. 100 more to go.
Oh, God.
All right. So we don't know what we're going to talk about in the next video. Oh, we do know that our next video will more than likely be a review of L Word 1.2. Mm-hmm. We will most likely post that on Sunday night, maybe early Monday morning. Otherwise, our next video will be more talking about our wedding plans, and we'll figure out what we're going to be deciding between now and then. So
yeah.
Until then, don't forget, we are available on iTunes. If you want to log in and listen to our radio show, you can go to iTunes and search for Sisters Talk Radio, or you can go directly to our show page, sisterstalkradio.net. We're also available on Stitcher. Stitcher is a podcast application for your BlackBerry or your iPhone. And if you're not watching this video on the YouTube channel, all you have to do is go to youtube.com/Sisters Talk Radio to make sure you subscribe to Sisters Talk Radio on YouTube. We'll see you guys again later. Bye.
Bye.